Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Fan Appreciation Month here on Reaction and Review. Yes, guys, this is an entire month where I do nothing but focus on stuff sent in off the Amazon.com wish list. Tonight's film is a film from the UK, and I've heard nothing but horrible things about this movie. In fact, what's really weird is the person who told me all those horrible things is the one who wound up buying it off the wish list. So apparently he knows I'm a little bit of a glutton for punishment when it comes to this series. Tonight's film, and I am going to call it by its British title, because I'm going to explain that as soon as I show you the cover and I tell you. Tonight's film is called Lesbian Vampire Killers. For whatever reason, the US version has the title shortened to just Vampire Killers. However, what I find sort of weird is when I popped this disc into my laptop and I fired up on Windows Media Player, the very first thing that pops up on the side where it actually gives you, you know, like the names of chapters and everything else, is the title Lesbian Vampire Killers, which tells me that this goofy little half-assed change was something that was a last minute thing, I guess, to be a little bit more politically fucking correct, even though, according to everything I've heard, it's a film about a couple of fucking losers who kill a bunch of lesbian vampires, thus they are lesbian vampire killers. Seems like a really logical title to me. But, what the hell? I'm going to continue to call it Lesbian Vampire Killers, just because, to me, that's a much more colorful sounding name. A rather more interesting name, to be honest with you. And, I'm really curious if this thing is truly as bad as everyone has been telling, or as the few people who've seen it have told me. Because, apparently, this film is not really that popular. So, let's find out, shall we? It's time to kick back, relax, and check out Lesbian Vampire Killers. You don't like... Why the fuck would you become a party clown if you don't like kids? That actually is the one thing which is stopping me from ever fucking becoming a party clown. I just don't like kids. Thus, I know it's not a good job for me. Oh boy, guys. We have a bunch of British bimbos who are stuck in the woods because their car broke down. I believe that the last time I saw a film which had that anywhere in the premise, it was abducted by the Daleks. This is not a good thing. Alright, guys. I know I ask this a lot when I'm doing these episodes, but I really have to know. Is anything interesting gonna ever happen in this fucking movie? And since it's a comedy, is there ever going to be a joke that's actually funny? I mean, because we're right now about a third of the fucking way in, and there's nothing here, guys. This movie is beginning to become painful to watch. Okay, that was really fucking disgusting. But, apparently, there is another way you can kill a vampire. You just have to cut their head in half using a fucking axe. You learn something new every fucking day. So the weapon that's going to save the day is the sword of Dieldo. That is probably the most desperate way of working in a dildo joke I've ever heard. Dieldo? God, fuck this movie, man. Okay, now that was a really creative way of killing a vampire. So, if I ever happen to run into one, I'll just have to wrap a crucifix necklace around its, around its neck and then punch its head off. That was really sort of cool, guys. Well, that was Lesbian Vampire Killers. God, fuck me. Okay, where to even start? Well, I should mention I'm really happy this fucking movie's done. Alright. I think I should start with the acting. Acting was the least of this film's problems. Well, actually, to be fair, the least of its problems were camera, lighting, and sound, but then again, I'm kind of sick and tired of talking about that unless it's really shitty. So, let's talk about the acting. One person in this entire film actually turned in a halfway decent performance. I don't know what the fuck his name is. All I know is that he played the vicar. The vicar is the only guy who turned in any kind of a real showing here that I actually would be willing to believe. Everybody else turned in this lifeless wooden showing, and I swear to God, every last one of them sounded like they were reading off of cue cards. Very poorly reading off of cue cards, I should mention. Because it's... Oh my God. It's like everything was so lifeless. There was nothing there. There was nobody trying to actually put out any kind of a showing. But I think that could have partially to do with the writing. See, guys... I've seen a lot of vampire films in my life, and I kind of like ones that try to, change it up a little bit. Example, I kind of liked the fact that Dylan Dog had vampires who were selling their blood as a drug. I actually thought that was a rather interesting concept. I loved the Lost Boys when I was a kid, because that actually was a very, very modern take on vampires. This thing has a modern setting, but as soon as vampires show up, it basically just turns into an old style vampire film. And not only that, but where like a lot of films will actually take a handful of liberties with everything that vampires are weak to, where certain ones, vampires will have absolutely nothing, and where things such as like crosses and garlic will do nothing. Here it's everything. It's crosses, garlic, holy water, beheading, sunlight, all of it will kill a vampire, which thus turns them into probably the wussiest monsters on the planet. And I think really if they would have taken away at least a couple of those and actually attempted to make these lesbian vampires at least in some way a threat, maybe I would have cared a little bit. Now, while I'm on the subject of writing, I'd like to talk about the humor. Because I read on the back here, it actually says right here. Now, here's a blurb which is from Fangoria magazine. I'm gonna tell you guys. Usually, you can trust like Fangoria, but the blurb reads as follows: a crowd-pleasing, entertaining horror comedy in the vein of Shaun of the Dead. No, fuck you. The only thing this puerile piece of monkey shit has in common with Shaun of the Dead is that it's British. Otherwise, Shaun had far better writing, had much better acting, and since I'm going to talk about the humor here, Shaun of the Dead actually had jokes that were funny. Jokes that I actually could feel myself, genuinely laugh at. This thing was lucky if their pathetic attempts at humor made me even grin. And so that's saying a lot. I mean, I'm going to tell you guys, I really wanted to like this one because oftentimes when I hear a movie with a really fucked up title, I usually wind up kind of enjoying it. So when I first heard of Lesbian Vampire Killers, I thought, dude, this thing is probably going to be funny in a ridiculously corny and cheesy way. No, it's bullshit. It has jokes that really are only going to be found funny by essentially 6-year-olds and adults who have the mentality of a 6-year-old. Frankly, there are jokes on Family Guy and South Park that are 10 times more cerebral than anything you'll find in this goddamn movie. This thing, no. There's no way in hell I could possibly recommend this thing to you unless you happen to find words such as cock and titties to be just absolutely hysterical. And that's not me. Also, again, I mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to say it again. The fact that the big weapon that was going to kill the head lesbian vampire was called the Sword of Dieldo, and every character insisted on mentioning that the handle of this sword looks like a fucking dick, was probably some of the laziest writing I have ever seen, and probably one of the most desperate attempts to try to ham-handedly force in a dildo reference. It was just awful. I found nothing good about this movie. The soundtrack, I would like to just sort of touch on the soundtrack a little bit. The soundtrack was ridiculously hit and miss because there's two songs that immediately jump out. One of them I actually kind of like, the other one I really hate. The song I kind of like is Hot, Hot, Hot by Buster Poindexter, but that honestly was not even his song. They actually used a really poorly done cover version of it. And then meanwhile, they had the song Woman, which I think is by like Wolf Mother or some such shit. That song is a piece of crap. And the fact that the fact that it was featured in here in the scene which is supposed to show us the frickin' ladies, and I guess it's supposed to make them look sexier. No, I just sat there and I was sort of dumbfounded because they opted to take this horrible song and just try to use it to make all these women look hot and sexy. No. You could have picked almost any other song. It would probably have worked. But yeah, oh my god. Well, before I happen to forget, yes, Lesbian Vampire Killers came off of the Amazon wish list. The person who sent it in was a friend of mine. His name is Howard. His YouTube screen name is Heavy Bass Axe. By all means, guys, swing on over there and check out his stuff. Oh boy. And yes, he apparently warned me about this movie, and I told him how bad could it really be. Well, he bought me a copy. He sent it, and now I know how bad the fucking thing actually was. Frankly, there's no way in hell I'm ever going to watch this goddamn movie again. There is just no way in hell. I personally would not even be willing to give this thing to somebody. So, oh my god, just what a shitty fucking movie, man. Well, guys, I hope the rest of Fan Appreciation Month goes better. I'm looking at everything else that is lined up. The next film, oddly enough, is also a British film. So, kind of hoping that one's able to do a little bit better than what Lesbian Vampire Killers did. But then again, hey, anything could happen. The next movie could very easily be a complete pile of shit. But I will not know until I get around to watching it. So, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.